Okay, let's unpack this deep dive on one of the most just magnificent and sprawling works of spiritual literature ever composed, Mevlana Rumi's Mesnevi.
It truly is monumental. I
Yeah.
mean, we're talking about 6 volumes, something like 26,000 rhyming couplets, all written in Persian.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a shortcut to understanding the heart of Islamic mysticism, philosophy, and even, practical psychology, the mesnevi is the source.
And our mission today is ambitious, but I think really clear. We want to understand not just the scale of this work, but the content. What is Mevlana fundamentally telling us about the human condition, the spiritual path, and maybe more importantly, how did he do it?
How did he communicate these immense, dense truths in a way that is still so accessible, 8 centuries later?
Exactly.
Well, to even begin to appreciate the scope, we have to start with Mevlana's own description. He didn't see Mesnevis as just poetry or some kind of textbook. He called it the Usulunen, Usulunen, Usuludur.
The root of the root of the root.
The root of the root of the root of religion.
That is a colossal claim.
It is. And scholars generally interpret this as referring to the 3 essential layers of the spiritual journey. So the first root is Sharia, which is amal, or action, outward practice.
Yeah.
The second is Tariqa, or how, your spiritual state. And the final, deepest root is Hakikat, ultimate truth.
So when he says it's the root of all three, he's basically claiming the Mesnevi is the complete guide. It covers everything from, daily morals all the way to divine reality.
That's it. The goal is Hakikat, the ultimate truth. But the vehicle to get there needs action and spiritual refinement. The Mesnevi is designed as the ultimate roadmap for the spiritual seeker on that internal journey.
Asala.
Exactly.
Sure.
But here's what's so surprising for a text that claims to hold the core of theological truth. The methodology. It isn't dense philosophical debate. It's incredibly approachable. Mevlana was, above all, a master teacher.
Let's dive right into that method, because that really feels like where the genius lies. How do you take the mood of the root and make it, make it understandable for the average person in 13th century Anatolia?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the primary method he used is simple storytelling. It's sometimes called the taki metodu.
The parable teaching method.
Yes. The entire book is fundamentally a teaching book. It's didactic and it's moral mystical, and it was written out of the sheer necessity for human education. He needed to guide people.
So he had to take these profound, really abstract concepts like the nature of the ego or what divine love even is, and bring them down to a level that anyone could grasp.
And he did it using this huge library of stories, Heike Ehler and fables, and just everyday anecdotes and parables. He gave this wonderful metaphor for it, actually. He said the stories are just the scales in which the delicate seed of meaning, the manna, rests.
Oh, that's beautiful. The story is just the protective wrapping.
It is. The story isn't the destination, it's the vehicle. It's the packaging that makes that delicate, subtle seed of truth portable and digestible. And it helps you remember it.
Of course. If the story is engaging or funny, the lesson sticks.
Precisely. Mevlana even compared them to the scent of a heavenly apple that carries news from the eternal garden. Or, more simply, just a window to reality. They draw you in, and then they shift your focus from the literal story to the truth underneath.
It's just such a powerful communication strategy, and it sounds, startlingly modern. Our sources point out that this method aligns perfectly with pedagogical approaches we use today.
Like the case study method you see in business or law schools.
Or context-based learning. It's incredible.
That's the brilliance of it. The stories give concrete context to these abstract ethical or theological problems, and the universal appeal is it's amplified by his choice of characters. He intentionally drew from all parts of society.
Right, I saw that. Children, the elderly, men, women, beggars, thieves.
Barbers and characters from different faiths, Christians, Jews, Muslims, to show that the spiritual message is for everyone. It's open to everyone.
Okay, but if he used such simple, sometimes even crude or humorous stories to package these huge truths, how did he stop his audience from just missing the point, getting stuck on the story itself?
That's where the warning comes in. Mevlana was very explicit. He cautioned readers not to focus only on the literal narrative, the suret, or the outer form. He stressed, the one who looks at the form is led astray. The one who looks at the meaning is shown the right way.
It's a pretty urgent command, then. Look beyond the surface. I remember that powerful analogy he used about the Nile River.
Yes. He said the mesnevi is like the water of the Nile. To the Copt, it appears as blood, but to the people of Moses, it is water.
So what you see depends on your own spiritual state.
Exactly. Your spiritual purity and insight determine what you see. If you're spiritually sick, you only see the surface, the blood. If you're purified, you see the life-giving water, the real meaning.
That makes perfect sense. So he mastered the art of packaging the truth. But what exactly did he put in those packages? After covering the how, the storytelling, let's turn to the what. The universal curriculum inside these stories.
And the curriculum is staggering. It addresses virtually every concept relevant to our lives, individual and social. We're talking justice, law, knowledge, freedom, loyalty, and of course that eternal conflict between form and meaning.
At its heart, it's a massive curriculum for self-refinement, isn't it? For internal maturation.
Absolutely. And the most central inner struggle Mevlana focuses on, perhaps the main antagonist in the entire work, is the battle with the nefs.
Which we can translate as the ego or the lower self.
Right. And Mevlana meticulously charts the comprehensive and often hidden influence of the ego on everything we do. It's the source of pride, envy, greed. And his advice is tough but direct. The back of the ego must be broken with patience, with sabor.
He uses these incredible, detailed character vignettes as psychological mirrors. The story of the grammarian is one of my favorites. It's just a perfect case study in intellectual vanity.
It really is. So you have this proud scholar, the grammarian, boasting to a simple boatman about his superior knowledge of grammar. He asks the boatman if he's studied grammar, and when the boatman says no, the grammarian just dismissively says, then half your life has been wasted.
And then, of course, the boat springs a leak.
Exactly. And the boatman calmly turns to him and says, Sir, can you swim? The grammarian admits he can't, and the boatman says, then your whole life has been wasted because the boat is sinking.
It's the ultimate lesson in relevance. It's not just some ancient anecdote. It's a perfect warning for today's world of, performative intellectualism, people confusing jargon with real competence.
And we see that same psychological depth in his illustration of greed. Think of the story of the man who is crying dramatically for his starving dog.
Oh, right. But he won't give it the bread that's in his own backpack.
He refuses. He rationalizes his cruelty. He actually says, bread cannot be taken from a traveler on the road for free.
It's wild.
It exposes the psychological knots people tie themselves into when they're driven by vice. He's so consumed by greed, by hars, and by rationalizing his own possessions that he can genuinely feel pity for the dog. But he cannot break his own self-imposed rule of stinginess.
Even if it causes death.
It's these specific flaws, vanity, envy, pride, greed, all explicitly listed as hurdles to overcome.
And the entire spiritual journey is packaged brilliantly in the Mesnevi's very first story, The King and the Slave Girl. It's not just a simple fable, is it? It's a metaphor for the whole internal landscape he's about to chart.
It is a profound map of the human psyche. So the king represents the soul. His quest takes him down the road, which is the physical world, the dunya kadesa.
I am a slave girl.
The slave girl who the king becomes instantly infatuated with. She represents our limited human reason, the intellect that's so easily swayed and controlled by the ego.
So the king, using his own limited worldly intellect, tries every worldly thing to cure and possess the girl, but he fails. She just gets sicker.
He fails because he's trying to fix a spiritual problem with physical means, and this forces him to realize the limits of his own worldly power, and he finally seeks out the divine doctor,
The Tabi Ilahi,
who represents the spiritual guide or the perfected human.
So the whole story is a blueprint for the soul's path. The soul comes into the world, gets entangled with the lower self and limited reason, it suffers, and only finds the path to healing by submitting to true spiritual guidance.
And we noted earlier that Mevlana wasn't afraid to use wit, nuclear, and sometimes even surprisingly blunt or satirical stories to drive these heavy points home.
That seems like a calculated risk. I mean, did he ever worry that the satirical stuff would distract or, offend the very people he was trying to teach?
He was a revolutionary communicator. He understood that humor makes a lesson unforgettable. And he addressed this directly. He said, "My jokes are not jokes, they are instruction."
They're teaching.
They're teaching. Humor acts as a kind of moral shock, forcing you to drop your guard. By using these diverse, relatable characters and sometimes crude scenarios, he drew attention to the absurdity of the ego's behavior. He makes the reader laugh at themselves, at their own vices, and that self-reflection is the first step toward change.
Which brings us right to part 3. Moving past those inner struggles to the ultimate goal of the mesnevi, the past, divine love, and transcendence. This is where his philosophy becomes truly transformative.
Right. Mevlana's entire system hinges on love, on ashq.
Yeah.
Specifically, the true divine love that transcends all our worldly attachments. This love is presented as the elixir of renewal and resurrection for both the individual and for society.
It's the only force that can actually destroy ambition and pride and greed.
It's the ultimate form of spiritual freedom. That famous quote really captures it. "O son, untie the bond, be free. Until when will you be slave to silver and gold?"
Worldly love is a chain, but divine love is liberation.
Exactly. And this love, it can't be explained by reason or logic, by a call.
Hmm.
It has to be experienced. Mevlana argued that if you try to define it intellectually, you miss the point entirely. The only way to understand love is through the path of love itself.
And this path of love isn't instant. It's a process. It's a process of becoming. The entire mesnevi is really answering the question of what this path of maturation looks like.
Which Mevlana summarized so perfectly in his own famous declaration: "I was raw, I cooked, I was ripe, hamdem, peacedom, oldem."
That transition from the raw, ego-driven self through the fire of spiritual discipline to the ripe, mature heart, that's the developmental goal for every single reader.
The goal is the Olgun Gunal, the mature heart.
This emphasis on the inner world, the gunal, is so striking, and it explains why the mesnevi is being studied today in such, well, in such modern contexts.
Absolutely. Mevlana was speaking directly to the realm of what modern science calls the subconscious and the transcendent mind 8 centuries ago. His insights into deep consciousness are so profound that his work is being examined now through the lens of transpersonal psychology.
And the study of transcendent consciousness.
Yes, he understood human personality, our deficiencies, our innate talents so thoroughly. He believed the ultimate aim of education wasn't just acquiring facts, but fixing those internal deficiencies to bring a person closer to their true potential.
That's spot on. His system is built on the reality of human creation, prioritizing the development of our natural talents and correcting the flaws the ego introduces, all leading toward that mature state. So we have this massive, complex, ancient work. Beyond the immediate spiritual guidance, what does this 8-century-old text offer us today? I mean, what's the social relevance?
Well, it offers profound solutions to contemporary problems, both social and spiritual. First, it's a time capsule. It's a remarkable resource for social history, covering the customs and traditions of 13th century Anatolia, everything from medicine to astronomy.
But its most powerful, enduring legacy has to be its embrace of universal tolerance. Uskuru.
Without a doubt. You have to remember, Mevlana was operating during one of the most politically chaotic periods in the region, the Mongol invasions, a time that was just rife with division and fear.
And his system, founded on this idea of universal love, played a crucial unifying role.
It did. He embraced every faith and culture, seeking peace above all else. He was actively combating division with philosophy.
He explicitly rejected ethnic or nationalistic divisions, right?
He did. He made this powerful statement that the soul is friends with knowledge and reason and has no business with Arabic or Turkish. He just dismissed the idea that our language or our geography or our superficial differences should ever define or divide us.
He taught that people should be judged solely by their virtues and their knowledge, not by their appearance, their lineage, or their minor faults. I mean, that truly is a timeless prescription for building a peaceful society.
And this all loops back to his skill as a communicator. Scholars recognize Mevlana as one of history's most effective pedagogues. The mesnevi is, in essence, a masterclass in spiritual education. Its success, even today, lies in its perfect ability to communicate deep, difficult truths because he understood human nature so perfectly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, navigating the complexities of the modern world? Mevlana's Mesnevi is a multi-layered guide. It's a theological cornerstone, a manual for spiritual development, and a vast, rich collection of human stories used as potent teaching tools. Above all, it is a path to internal clarity and maturation. It's an instruction manual for becoming ripe.
Mevlana called the mesnevi a bright mirror, a parlak aina, that has been circulating for 8 centuries. The fundamental act of knowing the mesnevi is intrinsically linked to the act of knowing ourselves, of holding that mirror up to our own internal portrait, our inner world, our heart, our gunul.
If the goal of the Mesnevi is to be a spiritual guide, a gönül kılavuzu, what parts of our own inner lives are we afraid to let Mevlana's mirror reflect? What truth about our own ego are we still rationalizing away?